So what can the game of baseball teach us about following Jesus? Hey friends, it's Pastor Mike from Fellowship Church. Always love to connect with you midweek. Hope you're having a great week. Know that we love you and praying for you. I always say that, but it's always true. Friends, we're at the tail end of the baseball season, and so I've been wondering lately, what can the game of baseball teach us about following Jesus? Now, if you're not that familiar with the game of baseball, we're in playoff time, which means we don't have that much more baseball coming this year yet. Pretty simple game. Pitcher throws the ball across the plate, hitter hits it, outfielders are supposed to field it. The one with the most runs, that team wins. But pitching and catching, that's the most integral part of the game of baseball because they're involved in every play. And over the course of the years, a fair number of pitchers have been really good at throwing that ball over the plate. In fact, if you're really good at pitching, you might someday end up with something called a no-hitter. A no-hitter is when a pitcher throws the ball across the plate with such accuracy and such velocity that no one actually hits the ball. That's why they call it a no-hitter, of course. In a no-hitter, it's still possible for runners to get on base. You can take a walk, you can get hit by a pitch. There could be such a thing as a passed ball, meaning the catcher doesn't catch it. There have been no-hitters in history where the pitcher threw a no-hitter and actually lost the game from a runner who still got on base. But so far, there have been 314 no-hitters in Major League Baseball over the years. There are about 9 of them this past year. There's one type of pitching performance, though, that's even better than a no-hitter. It's called a perfect game. There have only been about 20 of those throughout history. A perfect game is when the pitcher allows no one on base. No hits, no walks, nothing, no way for a hitter to get on base. The bases remain clear throughout the entire game. That's called a perfect game. And here's why that matters. There's a passage in Matthew chapter 5 where Jesus says to his disciples, "Be perfect, therefore, as your heavenly Father is perfect." The word perfect meaning absolutely complete with nothing missing. Now, you might think that Jesus was saying, be perfect in your behavior, be perfect in your not sinning. Hey, don't do that thing over there and be perfect about it. That's not what he said. What Jesus said is, love your enemies. And then he said, be perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect. That's a hard one, friends, because at some point in time in your life on planet Earth, you will have an enemy. Now, you're already thinking, gee, Pastor Mike, I don't have anything close to an enemy out there. Well, biblically speaking, an enemy is simply someone who opposes you. It's someone who's in your path. It's someone who's potentially preventing you from going where you want to go. So an enemy doesn't have to literally be a physical assault, but an enemy is someone who simply gets in the way. And at some point in time in your life, you've had an enemy. Now understand who Jesus was talking to in those days. He was talking to disciples who were under the thumb of the Roman Empire. They didn't have to look too far to find someone with a sword. They could identify the enemy pretty easily. So for the disciples, they probably thought, you want us to love a Roman? That's hard. Well, there's no one in your life with a sword, hopefully, at least not externally. But there may be somebody in your life who has intended you harm. There may be somebody in your life who has hurt you very deeply. There may be somebody in your life who has offended you and never taken responsibility for that offense. There may be somebody who is preventing you from becoming the person you'd like to be. At some point in time in your life, you just might have an enemy. And here's how Jesus says he wants us to handle our enemies. He doesn't say tolerate them. He doesn't say avoid them. He doesn't say fight back against them, give them a dose of what they've given you. That's not what he says. He says, I want you to love them. Because when you love them, they just might not be enemies any longer. Love is the most powerful of all responses we can have to people who are enemies, to people who have wronged us or hurt us, to people who are preventing us from being the kind of person we want to be at some point in time in this life. You'll probably have an enemy of some kind. And Jesus' response to us was to go love them and do it so well that our Heavenly Father would actually say, now that's perfection. Are you loving well enough today, both friend and enemy, where God would say, now that's perfection? Friends, this is all hard for myself and for my family at this point in time, because if you watched this past week's service, you know that our family, there was a crime committed against a member of our family. You can watch the live stream for more information, but just know that Jesus' response to the enemies in our life is to say, love them with a perfect kind of love so that just maybe they won't be enemies any longer. It's not easy, sure isn't easy for me, but sometimes the things in the Christian faith are not all that easy. That's what we can learn about the Christian faith from the game of baseball. Friends, I hope you have a great week. Take care. God bless. Try to love and allow Christ to love through you. Take care. God bless. Bye-bye.